Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bethany and you know why you're here. I know why you're here. So let's go ahead and get into part 6 of the Micah Miller investigation. Y'all, I don't think you're ready for today's video because we are going to go over a lot. We're going to kind of jump from topic to topic because I it's been it's been difficult. I've seen other creators kind of like compile different information into different videos, but I am trying my darndest to get the information out to you as soon as I know it. So as soon as I know something, I'm trying to make a video about it and give it to y'all. So these last couple days there has been so much information coming out, so we're just going to have to jump from topic to topic. So we are going to watch a video and read a post from a man. His name is Ty Longbeam, I do believe, and he recorded JP having, in what my opinion would be, is like a mental breakdown, like a psychotic episode. Allegedly, it's what it looks like. So we're gonna see that literally everything that he has said about Micah, like at the pulpit, he is. I feel like he is projecting, right? Like his mental illness onto his wife. We're going to watch that video. We're going to finally hear from somebody inside of the church who did go, but she quit going. However, her husband remained going to that church. And I told y'all that somebody's going to have to speak up who went to that church. And she is. So we're also going to listen to that. And then Micah's dad also spoke up and explained things that were at the crime scene that the media and the police department did not disclose, but he actually saw, like he was there. We have those, and then we have a few Brit videos once again that explained the really, really great news that the FBI is now involved. However, has already been involved. That is something that we are alleging and assuming that Micah already knew, and that could have been what she told her sister, like, I know too much. That could have been that thing. So we're going to dive into those videos as well. So let's go ahead and get started with JP's just weird episode that he had. And I'll read you the post that Ty put on Facebook as well, so we can kind of get more of like an idea of what the hell's going on. I believe the saying goes, getting taste of your own medicine, and I mean that quite literally. You have used and abused for way too long only to get up on that pulpit and consistently discredit your victims by airing out intentional, degrading, inappropriate personal information. Doing that allows you control the narrative. Now we have the death of your wife that you claim only took her life because of mental illness. Fact is, nobody was ever mental until they met you. You are the common denominator in all of this. This video is only proof that you yourself have issues and you know what medication can do to someone. Imagine being in a vulnerable state like this and being met with control, manipulation, and shame. What's the long-term effect on that? Now add abuse on top of that, all forms that may apply. Who can handle that? Yet you were met with a soft tone and a water bottle that you don't deserve. JP, I could have done this anonymously, but I want you to see it's coming from me so you don't go after anyone else. You know I've got receipts, and you know I'm not scared. I've never met anyone like you, but what I have learned and been taught is people like you repeat their behavior, and every so often they slip up and show who they really are. Sometimes they even type it in an email. I think it's abundantly clear that you haven't been held accountable for any of your actions over the years, and I never hit the recycling bin. Solid Rock, let me introduce you to your pastor. You don't see this version on Sundays. This is the guy you allow to give you and your family counsel. This is the guy you give permission to speak into your life. The guy you share personal, vulnerable information with that he will use against you when and if you question him. It's time to really take a step back and evaluate what's going on. JP, you're a complete shit stain to all the other pastors that truly desire to lead people to the Lord. You are a liability to the Christian faith and to anyone that you set your eyes on. The reason why most people didn't speak up at first is because they know your reaction is ruthless. You have a little bit of local power with enough financial resources to hurt people legally, and they fear putting their family at risk. And the few others that don't speak up believe it's not the Christian thing to do. Well, neither is doing nothing. I also believe Jesus flipped over some tables, so here we go. You've already had the chance the first time around for a time of healing, counsel, and guidance pursuant to our government instrument. Second time, your reverend had to give that same PR speech to a church body. Yet you chose to smack every former member in the face that would have supported you if you got the help you need. So please don't mistake this video as a broken man who misses his family. This is a twisted individual using one of his many tactics to manipulate his way back into control. But his target didn't let that happen. She kept her foot down and you changed gears and got nasty. Over the years, his ways to manipulate have only gotten more effective with precision. To the ones who are the reason I'm involved, I won't name. I hope you understand why I had to do this. Enough is enough. Some want to raise awareness and most want justice. Godspeed, JP. So now we're going to watch this video of him having either a mental breakdown or it actually was because of mental illness and medication. I'm not sure when this video was taken. It was uploaded on Facebook 5 days ago. However, the rumor is it's from like 2015, 2016, but I don't think that matters because it gives everything that he said on stage when he was saying like, I am suicidal. I've been the most depressed I've ever been. I'm on lithium. I'm, all these different things. When he gave us the insight to his mental state, this kind of validates it. And I want to tell y'all, let me be very, very clear. When I chuckle, when I poke fun, when I make fun, I am not making fun of the mental illness side. I want to be very clear with this. I understand that mental illness is a struggle. Absolutely. I understand that if there is a wrong diagnosis, if there's a wrong whatever with prescriptions, with your medicine, mental stuff can go, like I am very aware of that. However, all of that goes away because of who this man is. Okay? I know some people have the mindset of like, oh, we don't want to make fun. We want to just talk about the problematic things that he's done. I understand there's a time and place for that, but not this man. So I will make fun. I will poke fun. I will laugh at him because number one, it is funny. And two, all I keep thinking about is how he made Micah feel and the alleged what we think happened. Okay, so I'm not here for that. I will make fun of him during this time. So let's watch this really weird video.
JP. You alright, man? You okay? Huh? You okay? What's the matter? Huh? What's the matter?
I switched my medication. Makes me go crazy.
Is somebody helping you?
I think Mark's coming to get me.
Oh, okay. Okay. But you got Mark coming?
Somebody called him, I think.
Okay.
I feel like ants are biting me.
So,
Because ants bite me everywhere.
is your medication something?
He's saying he feels like there are ants biting him everywhere. Sir, you're laying in the grass.
They gave you?
Yes, I'm a drug.
Yeah.
There's some new doses or something.
Can you want me to make sure Mark's coming?
Yeah, all I know is phone out with my phone's on me. I don't have my phone.
Have y'all, when I first watched this, all I could think of were the bloopers in Liar Liar. Please, if you know what I'm talking about, which here in a second I will put up the clip of what this reminds me of, but right now, if you know what I mean, please put it in the comments because I think we could actually be friends. For real, for real. This is what I mean. Literally all I could think of listening to this gremlin on the ground being eaten by ants.
But somebody's called him, right?
Yeah, the lady across the street called.
Okay. All right. Hey, JP.
Hey.
I think Mark is coming.
Mm-hmm.
I had him try to get in touch with me again to make sure. Is that okay?
You don't want the ants fight me.
Huh?
Don't want the ants fight me. There's ants all over me.
Feels like there's ants on you? There's no ants on you, though. It's just, maybe that's how you feel, but there's none on you. There's none on the grass.
I do love how this guy's recording him, and he's like, he's not even that concerned for him. He's just like, hey man, I just need to document this. Because if you were really, this is not, like, praise God for this guy because he got all of this on camera. But we all know, like, if you were, like, super concerned, you'd help him up. You'd be like, hey man, no, it's okay. But it's so funny how he's like, there aren't ants on you. That's just how you feel. What, are you okay? It's so cold. It's so cold. It's funny to me just because of how much of a piece of shit he is. And now this is all over the internet and hopefully embarrassing the absolute shit out of him. Because don't forget what we learned in the last video, that he posted a picture of Micah topless to Facebook just because he wanted to get back at her for hurting him. Like, this is gold.
What kind of medicine do they have you on? All right, well, somebody's going to come, okay? Do I need to call 911? Do I need to call the medics?
The first time I watched this and he said, do I need to call 911? I knew that he'd say no. I knew he was, no, we don't need to do that. We don't need, no shit, because they're probably going to put you on a 92-hour hold or going to put you in a psych ward, but get you mental help, like get into the mental hospital so you could get the help that you needed. But no, you're going to put your wife in there. Cool.
I just need to get to Jesus. I just want to get to heaven quickly.
If you can't understand what's coming out of his mouth, he's saying, I just want to go see Jesus. I want it to happen quickly. All I want to do is go see Jesus. You ain't seeing Jesus, buddy.
Yeah, we got somebody coming.
Is there anything I can do? You need water or something?
You want some water or anything? You want some water? Yeah, he said okay if you got a little bottle of water.
I do.
He's wondering what his kids are doing. He's wondering what his wife is doing. He misses his family so much. This is so embarrassing. You know what? No, this is embarrassing for his children. I'm going to be quite honest with you. This is the first time I thought about it. This is the first time I thought about it because all I've thought about is like what Micah did. But he has like 5 kids, dude. Aw, that's so sad. Seeing that, seeing his dad having like and I'm not saying I'm saying because of the freaking kids. They're gonna have to reap their father's decisions, and especially this video, but also knowing that your dad tried to get back at your stepmom and put nudes on, well, one nude on Facebook for the freaking world to see. And now your family is all over the news, and it's, oh my God, that's so sad. Poor kids. I hope they go to therapy. And I hope they don't have anything to do with this. Like, I hope their names aren't brought into this in any capacity. And I hope we never even know what they look like. You know what I mean? Like, I want them so far from this disaster than anything else. Oh my God. And I wonder if that biological mom, like his ex-wife, is thinking like, oh my God, that could have been me. I wonder if she's gonna say anything. Well, I know that she like wrote the affidavit and but I don't think she has like spoken out of, yeah, this is exactly what happened. Nobody believed me. And like, I don't know if anybody like didn't believe her, but this could have been me. I wish people would have taken my word for it, and like I told them what had happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wonder if she is going to speak out or if she's still afraid of JP. But I'm sure she's also keeping her babies in mind, and they're number one. So I don't know. But listen, I don't care if my opinion of this, I don't care if me making fun of this is disrespectful. He deserves 0 respect. Do you understand? And I really, really want to be clear that I am not making fun of just a person in general having a mental illness, being on the grass and having like a mental breakdown. No, it is so different because it's this piece of shit man. He doesn't deserve any of my respect. He doesn't deserve any of y'all's respect. I will laugh at him as much as possible because this shit is funny.
I don't know. I think they...
Okay, I'm going to be quite honest with you. There's only a few more minutes of this video, and it's just him doing that and then drinking the water, and then they cut the video off. So That's all that is. But I found that very, very interesting because now that essentially like validates our thoughts of him projecting his mental illness on his congregation. No, sorry. Projecting his mental illness onto Micah and then telling his congregation that this is what I'm dealing with, this is what I'm dealing with. Oh, but I had to hospitalize my wife because she has bipolar, because she's on lithium, because blah, blah, blah. But really, it's him that's been dealing with it. Okay, now we are going to listen to, I'm telling you, this is going to be a longer video. We are going to listen to / watch a video from Conspiracy here on YouTube, and I'll again put everything in the description box below for my citing sources and for y'all if you wanted to read into it and or watch it as well. So we are going to watch this video, and this video is entitled Micah Miller, Wife of Solid Rock Church Member Speaks Out. And this woman in Conspiracy, I'm not entirely sure what her name is. Y'all should go follow her on YouTube. She talks a lot about conspiracy things, true crime news, TikTok, those kinds of things. So this woman, she used to go to Solid Rock, and her husband, she stopped going. However, her husband continued to go, and she is now speaking out because she claims that her situation was very, very similar to Micah's. Here we go.
The audio that you are about to hear is of a woman who is married to a man that attends J.P. Miller's church at Solid Rock at Market Common. She gave more insight into what it was like to be married to someone involved with this church, and her story is eerily similar to Micah's, and she also gives some details and insight into Micah's situation with her husband, John Paul Miller. Her story is quite shocking, and everyone was very concerned for her safety after she was releasing this information. However, she was pretty confident in doing so, but I am going to be blocking out what her username and her real name was. We are going to reference to her as Kay. She also did an interview with Justin on TikTok on his YouTube channel.
My husband, he is a member of the church. So yeah, basically my husband, he worked the funeral today, and he called and told me some updates, and then, I posted the video, and he just now, I have it recorded, threatened me to take the video down about the church still supporting JP. So
He threatened you?
yeah, just like threatened to divorce again. The nighttime minister, and he's on the sex offender list. And I found that out just because looking in my area just to be safe, and he was the one who was over teaching men to be make their wives subservient, and was trying to get me exercised because I wouldn't.
Krista.
Yeah.
Who threatened you? To clarify, who threatened you?
I mean, it's been like a lot of people. So my husband threatens me with divorce, and then I get threatened with being put out of my home. I get threatened with being put in a mental institution, just like Micah. So when Micah got put in a mental institution the last time, my husband came home from church, and I had to run away because him and his mother were going to put me in a mental institution forcefully. And then all of my doctors had to tell every mental institution in our area not to accept me because they were trying to do that.
Do you need a safe place to go right now? Do you need help right now?
So my family, they bought me an apartment to come stay at, and I'm here today.
You're safe. So right now, as we speak, you're safe.
Right now, my husband is calling me over and over, trying to get me to take down those videos. No. Yeah, right. So, but yeah,
you're with your family right now, safe.
I am. I'm with my family. They can say hey. Hello. Yeah.
That makes me feel so much better about what's happening.
Yeah.
She left earlier today.
I hope the husband doesn't know where your apartment is, or anyone else for that matter.
Yeah, no, so he was he had my location. I had that turned off. I actually had my entire phone turned off because it was being tracked so bad.
She can only text and call through Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is.
Because of how tapped it was.
Don't even hit to your location at all. Just don't even hint to it.
Yeah, no. I mean, that was kind of obvious. But regardless, so no, even being threatened to, with my job, they were calling and telling my job, because I wouldn't go to the church, that I was having an affair with the owner of my hospital, the guy who I'm employed by. And And so they tried to get me fired that way. And then when that didn't work, because they didn't know that I don't even see my boss, I work alone. Then they tried to force me onto disability for being having a brain like trauma. And then when that didn't work, they tried to say I was schizophrenic. And when that didn't work, it was they're trying to threaten that I would be on the street, divorced, and then it was basically like right in line with Micah, and that was kind of how I knew something was wrong with Micah. Like I was like, they're doing like they would say that Micah was in a mental institution, and then my husband would come home and tell me I needed to go because Micah was there. It was really weird.
Before any of this.
Like whenever she was first being put in the mental institution for bipolar, and then they said she was schizophrenic recently. My family knows them from 25 years ago. Unfortunately, it's been 25 years worth of information that I'm trying my best to eloquently summarize on the spot. You know, so I do apologize if it comes across a little bit frantic.
No, you're fine. Like if I was in your shoes, you're brave for what you're doing. And again, that's why we're all concerned about your safety. Number one.
I have been told for a year and a half that I was making everything up for attention. And then all of a sudden, one day it comes out that everything I said was right. It's really overwhelming.
What can you tell us about JP and his behaviors towards Micah over the last few years?
So okay, this is going to go a little far back. My sister is, this is when I say 25 years. My sister was friends with JP's first wife. And wildly enough, and I didn't even know this, my sister's furniture is actually from JP's first wife and his divorce to be with Micah. And, so Micah was unfortunately, and she was young. Rest her, God keep her soul at peace, but she, was the babysitter, and then a lot of things started coming out that he was buying her cars, and it started looking really suspicious. And then him and his wife got divorced, my sister's friend, and then relationship was kept pretty secret until she was old enough. But then JP lost his right to minister for 3 years because of the affair. What would that be? When Micah's my age, so whenever she was 18 was when they got married, or back to actually officially together, but she was 16, so 15 years ago. My previous job I worked in the surgical center, and that's how I found out was actually people who went to school with JP. I didn't even know they went to school together. I just started getting really concerned, saying, "Hey, do you know anything about this church? I feel unsafe there." And they were like, "Yeah, you should." So I didn't know about Micah, but then I noticed that she was always really sad looking, and always just really dressed down and pushing herself low. So I asked someone what was going on, and they told me that in the church that JP believed that women shouldn't be dressed up and look more prominent than the man. So he would make her dress uglier or dowdier than him because that was in their doctrine. It was really weird. And then he would talk about her horribly every sermon I went to, every sermon. And my husband and I actually got kicked out of my house because I told Nick that it was wrong for JP to tell the church that she was schizophrenic and not to answer her phone calls. He told people not to answer her phone calls if she called them. And this was a couple weeks ago because, she was trying to reach out for help. And he told everybody on that stage not to listen to her because it was bad for her mental health. So then it was just really obvious that he was and a lot of people say even the church is saying that she was having an affair, but he was having an affair first, and she left him, and then he paid people to get her back, and a lot of money. He paid people in the church to convince her to come back, and she did, and then she got back away, and then he hired a private investigator to say that she was sleeping with one of the ministers, and then he got fired, and Micah was never seen again. They said that Micah was a mental institution, but she was actually in Africa because I'm the club that they own. My family is friends with the actual owner, and he's said I called him and I was like, "What's going on? I'm being compared to Micah. Why is she in a mental institution?" And they're like, "She's actually in Africa." She comes back from Africa and then gets killed the next day.
And then we also found out during that time that she She bought 2 cars.
Yeah, she bought 2 cars.
Luckily, she was in a mental
Yeah,
institution,
yeah.
but she also bought 2 cars.
And we called the dealership,
Yeah.
and they said that she had came in and bought 2 cars.
It was the dealership she used to work at.
Yeah. They were completely just trying to cover everything up. Say she was in a mental institution when she was trying to run away. I haven't seen the pictures. He just said that he had pictures of her on the beach with their 20-year-old minister that they had just ordained. He got fired, but he told the congregation that he had filed for divorce because of that. So like when everybody's saying that she had filed for divorce, he had said that he had filed for divorce weeks before, and that he was in the clear because of the affair. Everything has been completely skewed from what is being told to what's actually been said.
And all of this information that you're saying now has been shared with investigators?
I haven't. So Micah's sister asked me to talk to investigators, but at this point, like when she asked me, I was so terrified that I haven't went to speak to them yet. And I'm sure they know, because they wouldn't have packed up the church and shut it down and everybody quit if they didn't know something. But no, it has just been this horrible, like all of the main people of the church is just so like willing to just lie for him. She had no chance.
I muted this portion of the live stream because it was giving away identifying information. Basically, the other people on panel are just urging her to be very careful about what she posts on social media and how she can be tracked through other devices.
Yeah, I have had a problem with being tracked for so long that I have learned how to do all that. And that's why I have my phone off. I had an Apple AirPods, a watch, and my laptop, even at my work. Like, I'm a molecular engineer. I work at a lab by the hospital here. And I get, like, there's someone who sits out in the parking lot every day.
There was an email signed into her iCloud.
Yeah, email sent to my iCloud. I had a letter from my phone company sending me that there was another number attached to it. Like, trust me, every day I go through and try to take everything off.
As long as you're aware of it, that's all we're actually looking out for.
Yeah, no, like, it has been an absolute... every day I go in and clear my phone out.
So she had also mentioned that all the research that Kyler has done as far as JP's father, that JP is also involved in.
Now, if you don't know who Kyler is, she is someone that has been compiling a lot of information regarding this case, as well as what happened with JP's father. She is on Facebook as well as TikTok. I will show both of her accounts on screen. It would probably be easier to go to her Facebook because she has everything typed up as far as what happened in JP's father's past.
So, like, JP was telling everybody that his dad was dead. And I didn't know that because, I refused to go to the church. And, unless, like, it was, like, this really big ultimatum, like, if you don't go to the church, you can't, go in the house. By my husband, like, things like that, so I would go in. But I was, the reason I know anything about JP's dad, because JP told everybody his dad was dead, is that the courier, so with my job, there's someone who brings me, this is sensitive, like organs. They bring me organs to my work. And this man has been doing it for 3 years, and come to find out, he's JP's dad's best friend. And that is how I know anything about where, like, Pakistan or any of that. But after that man told me all of this stuff, I never saw him again either. So I got a new courier after he told me all of those things. But his that's how I know anything about JP and Pakistan. But I do know that the church has ministers that are ordained in Pakistan with a bunch of ministries, and that is something that it gets so deep that I have just known just to try to not think about it too hard, because that's where it gets really deep. It's and the only reason I know about it is because the courier that I had, and he's an older man, just like JP's dad would be, because they were on TV together. He was showing me the letters of JP's dad asking for money from people that he knew back in the United States for that ministry. Like, it was, and I'm like, but isn't that man dead? And he's that courier is the reason I knew that JP's dad was back in the United States. And I just tried to stay away from that, because at this point, I was getting threatened by everybody that I was going to lose my job and be put in a mental institution because of things I was being told by. I didn't want to know this stuff. I didn't want to be involved. I just wanted the church to be a church. The week before Micah died, JP had everybody pray this prayer out loud. I was not there. My husband just told me because he feels guilty about it. Pray this prayer for Micah to hit her rock bottom so that she was forced to come back to the church. And they all did it in the sermon. Like them trying to bring me in to pray prayers over me. And I have previously had an incident on an airplane, which I had surgery for years ago. But my husband was telling everybody that I was still having those issues, and my husband told me that that church could heal me more than any surgeon or doctor I ever had could, and that I needed to go in and get prayed over, and I refused to be touched by them. And 3 times they tried to make a meeting where I was going to get touched and prayed over, and I refused to go. They would call in the morning and beg him to come. They would send me messages,
calling him
at night, like at 12 o'clock at night, saying like I was like the light of the world, and worried about me, wanting me to be there. And I'm like, why? So that's another reason I didn't go. When Micah died, I got a message that night from one of the elders saying, Satan is present. Please be careful and take care of yourself. And I just didn't respond.
Y'all, it is a lot. However, I knew somebody had to start talking. Y'all, it is so deep. And I don't know what affiliation they have with Pakistan. I know that they have an African mission, but I don't know anything about Pakistan at the time. But I will be learning more about that. That is for sure. Now we're going to listen to an interview with Micah's dad. And this show is called Sidebar with Jesse Weber. It's either Weber or Weber. I'm not entirely sure. I took clips from the TikTok handle So-Called Mess because they watched the Sidebar interview, and I figured it would be a lot easier to take it from there than to cut the whole entire thing. Praise God for these people. It makes my life so much easier. So let's watch this.
She got the weapon for self-protection. She told me days beforehand, Dad, I really feel like I need a weapon for protection. And she knows how to use it.
A South Carolina church pastor is facing serious scrutiny after his wife's sudden death in a nearby state park. And as new details come to life about her final days, her husband is getting more and more attention. We're joined by Michael Francis, Micah's father.
I just realized that there was music in this, so I will probably have to pause it here and there for copyright purposes.
And her sister Sierra Francis to talk about the young woman's passing and where legal action might take them in the future. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
Weber. Great.
By her own hand, that the sheriff's office saying John Paul was not in Robeson County when Micah died. Do you believe there is more to the story, correct?
Yes. It's there's a lot of details that they did not cover, and because it was equivalent in their eyes to previous self-inflicted wounds, I believe the law allows them to do less work. It does not prevent them from doing more work. And since there were multiple shell casings found and a live round found, it already didn't make much sense. So it would...
Yeah, we didn't know that part. I did not know that until I watched this interview with Micah's dad. There were more rounds on the ground. That doesn't sound self-inflicted.
Seemed that they would automatically do a complete toxicology, not just blood alcohol, and a complete autopsy, which they did not do. And we're just devastated that they didn't, because John Paul rushed the cremation process. During the briefing, we pressed pretty hard for more information and such, and the sheriff's office was trying to compress the briefing for us, and then they gave us a flash drive. It doesn't sound like Micah during the 911 call. She's so slow and so, but then later there are, I haven't even heard them myself, honestly. I have someone who's going through all that for me and filtering the information, because otherwise, the more information I get that sounds off, the more furious I get, and I need to be able to focus and control my emotions. But there was screaming going on and such, and that's not something indicative of a self-inflicted. Sounds like a fight. And with the bruising on her hands and on her arm, scratches on her hands, indicating defensive wounds. So very frustrating.
When you say defensive wounds, is that something that was told to you by a medical professional when you talked about multiple casings there? Where did you get this information? And when you brought this information to law enforcement or brought it or mentioned to them, what did they say?
Okay, as far as finding out, the park ranger took us back to the scene and pointed out, here's where she would have been standing. Here's where the shell casings and the live round were, which also doesn't make sense. She knew how to use a weapon. She got the weapon for self-protection. She told me days beforehand, Dad, I really feel like I need a weapon for protection. And she knows how to use it. She's qualified. She's been through training. She's not going to charge the weapon and eject a live round. She already knows the first rule of gun use is knowing the condition of the gun. So we got the information about the shells. I did it directly from the park ranger. And then when we brought that up to law enforcement, they just said, well, they had no answer. They really just had no answer why, any kind of, not even a speculation. They didn't even say, well, she probably did this, probably did that. They just said, this is what we have. And there is what would be an apparent bullet hole in a tree, which I have a picture of. And they just didn't seem to.
Her family is freaking awesome because they took pictures of everything. He goes on to say, I think it's either this part or the part 2, but he goes on to say before they cremated her, he took pictures of her hands, of the alleged, what they think would be defensive wounds. Because obviously now you don't have any proof of it because she's cremated, but they took pictures of it, which is so good on them.
To put the effort forth. So we're very disappointed in that.
And the defensive wounds, was that from the park ranger too, or?
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we looked at her hands during the viewing. We took pictures of her from the viewing. It was the worst day of my life. And she had scratches on her arms and on her hand. And the coroner in training had the chief coroner with her, but she spoke out and said, well, maybe that's from when they retrieved her from the water. And I said, okay, of course, maybe. Was there blood in those scratches and such? They had no answer. Very disappointing. So I basically said the scratches indicate some type of scuffle or something, because the area where she was, there was no trees or anything anyway. There was no trees in the water. There was nothing there that would have scratched her hands the way they were. Like this. So, it showed, it indicated that there was, some type of pressure. That's where the bruise was. And just,
Well, Michael, here's the thing. And I hate to ask you this, and I know it must be difficult to revisit it, but when you mentioned the 911 phone call, when that came out, I think a lot of people who were suspecting there might be something there, they were convinced that that was the end of the story. When you mentioned that 911 phone call, you said there's something about the way that Micah sounded on the phone that sounded odd to you. What do you mean by
absolutely.
that?
Very slow speech. She's a very happy-go-lucky, excitable person. And it was too slow. It was very slow. It was metered. It could have been done with an AI type of previous recordings where somebody would have had those words from her previously, or, whatever. And so it just doesn't make sense that he wouldn't go up there.
Do you have a theory as to what happened? Because authorities are saying, they crossed out his alibi of where he was. Do you have a theory as to what happened? And again, I know this is sensitive, so if you don't want to share it, I understand. But do you have a theory as to what you believe happened to your daughter?
Okay, well, I'll share what we spoke to about with the authorities, the sheriff in North Carolina. Also, as far as with his location, we've seen pictures of his truck. It had dark windows. Was it even him in there? Where's pictures of him physically there? We have.
That's the issue that we're having with his alibi, because they saw his truck, but they didn't see him. To have an legit alibi, they need to have pictures of him at this sporting event. They don't have pictures of him there. They only have his freaking truck, and that's it.
I haven't seen those. They've not been produced. If someone else has them, we would like to see them to prove that he was there, because otherwise it could be anybody in that truck. So the theory would be that because she had multiple tracking devices put on her car previously, that she was followed out to the park or forced to go out to the park, and they either follow her out there, or there's no reason for her to go out there. That's the main point as well. She's never been out there. We don't go up there. It's not a family spot. And she was off the trail enough into a park ranger only area that nobody knows about. And so the theory would be that she it was either tracked, and then they said, well, we didn't find a tracking device. Well, they could have removed it at the park. When the car was at the park and then it was collected by the authorities, they didn't check for a tracker, which blew my mind. They said, oh, we have all the evidence and everything. We asked them, was there a tracker on her car? And they said, well, we didn't check. And we were flabbergasted. This happened over and over during that interview. Why didn't you check that? We know that there was 3 or 4 trackers put on her vehicles. Why wouldn't you check to see if she was followed? They said, oh, there's no cameras, but we know she wasn't followed. Her car is just out here. And I said, well, there's no trackers. They said no tracker. I said, well, they could have removed it after they.
But how do you know she wasn't followed? Like, this police department is fucking awful.
They did the deed. So then Micah's mother, Angelita, she said, pretend this is Micah's hand. And she asked me, grab this hand. And then she pulled it up, and said, it looks like someone squeezed her hand and raised it up and shot. And there are defensive wounds from it and such. And that's the general idea of our theory, that somebody crushed her hand to hold the gun up to her head while she's fighting. Either them or someone else held her other hand or her other arm back, because there's bruising on it from squeezing, and they forced it to look like that was self-inflicted. And a couple of rounds went off during the scuffle. One ejected was live, and then it finally happened the way they would want it to happen. And then dumped her in the water, probably 40 meters away from where the shell casings in the gun was found. The water doesn't flow there. It's a slough. It's still. It just sinks. And it actually flows when it sinks, when it recesses, it goes the other direction from where she was found. So her body, even if it was put in the water right there, would not have flowed the direction where she was found. It would flow the other way. So it would be possible that the incident occurred right there, and the shell casings, and then the gun was dumped in the water right there. And then she was carried farther, 40 meters back, into a little bit more secluded area where she was found.
So Sierra Francis now joins the conversation. This is Micah's sister. Sierra, thank you so much for coming on. As I told your father, I just want to say again, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry for what you and your family are going through. Our hearts go out to you guys. And again, really appreciate you taking the time and being so generous with your time to come on and talk a little bit more about this. So I've already spoken to your father a lot about what you guys believe might have happened here. I want to talk to you about this legal claim that you have filed against Mr. Miller and the church. Walk us through what that claim is and what you're hoping to get from that.
As far as the legal side of things, I don't have perfect details of everything. I'm just trying to pick up where Micah left off and make sure that justice is served and that we are able to remain over her estate and make sure that it is used or allotted in the way that she would have wanted it to.
Do you know anything about the FBI being a part of this investigation now? Were you told anything about that, what they might be looking into?
So we are aware that Robeson County did come out and say that the FBI is involved, But as far as, what they're investigating and the extent of their involvement, the family's not sure.
Okay. Okay. I wanted to ask you this.
That's super interesting that the FBI is involved and the family doesn't know. I wonder if the FBI is not just like taking it slow, but really trying to gather as much evidence within the church, because it's not just Micah that they're looking into the money. And I think that's what they're doing right now. So they're not just looking into this murder as we think happened that way, they're also looking into money. So I'm sure that they're trying to see how the money correlates to her death and see if they can connect the two, because surely the family would have to be involved in some way. But also, there is so much legal documentation against JP that makes him look bad, that makes him look, I mean, even the video, it's not legal, but look at the video that we saw him of getting eaten by ants on the ground. You know what I mean? There are so many things that are against him that make his word look super invalid. However, it sucks that he uses her testimony of having a battle in her mind and thinking about ending her life, but Jesus gave her a new life in Christ and now she's joyful and whatever. But now he's using her testimony against her, saying, oh, she was already suicidal. So he took that and freaking ran with it. So I really wonder if they're trying to correlate the two, the money and the alleged murder that we feel like happened. And then once they have all of the paper trail, that sound evidence, I wonder if then they'll go to the family.
Yes, both of you this. So look, the main argument, and it's being put forward by Mr. Miller, and what we've seen is Micah, they say, had suffered from mental illness. Do you know anything about that? Anything you could tell us about that? Because one of the things that Mr. Miller has said is he had this power of attorney set up for that reason. What can you tell us about what Micah might have been going through?
So before Micah married John Paul, she had no signs, no history, no indications of mental illness at all.
And why did she presumably agree to a power of attorney? Usually the person who sets up would have to agree to it and sign to it.
He had every way to control her, and he was very good at manipulating the situation.
And she thought that he would be doing the right thing. She wanted to trust that Mr. Miller Jr. was actually doing the right thing for them, until she got away from him and had more time, when she spent more time with us, to peel off some of those layers and realize.
Well, I'm glad that the dad brought this up, Michael, I think his name was, because yeah, when you are married, you want to believe that your spouse is going to do the best in your interest. When and if your spouse has to be that power of attorney for whatever reason, you don't want to think that they're going to take that and manipulate and use it against you. So I'm sure that's what she thought. Like, obviously, when you're getting married, you're not thinking of the possible worst things that could happen, or my husband is going to potentially brainwash me and then try to kill me. Like, you're not thinking those things. So when you're married, you're thinking, oh, of course, my spouse is going to do whatever is necessary to keep me safe, to keep our money safe, to do anything that, I mean, through sickness and in health, right? So I'm sure that's exactly what she's thinking.
Is what was going on. And then she started becoming herself again and got a job and everything else, and was doing fine, and was happy-go-lucky self again, excited about the future, and which is something he did not like. Just very terrible.
There are these allegations that he groomed her. What do we mean by that?
He had his sights set on her from a very young age. I would guess probably 14 years old, 14 or 15 when we first came to the church.
Okay, so I need to address this. So evidently, in the articles that we read, it said in the article that they met when she was 10. Her sister evidently said that sentence meant 2010 and not 10 years old, because in some of the interviews that the family has said is that they met when she was like 14 or 15, and her sister was like, we weren't even here when she was 10. She must have meant 2010. Just clearing that up. I'm not sure where that discrepancy was, because that sentence said met when I was 10. So I feel like the structure of the sentence would have been different if it was like, yeah, we met when it was 2000. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. But obviously we're going to go off what the family says. So they did meet more like 14, 15.
And he made sure that he kept her exactly where he wanted her, to the point of who she married, what job she picked up after she was 18. He got her married, and then he made her his secretary and his babysitter and his let's go to lunch person, and oh, you're so beautiful.
And then when she was married, same thing, best friends with her husband, her previous husband, and manipulated the situation where he could have him doing something because he was his right-hand man, and then spend time with Micah alone, which is very inappropriate.
And to be clear about that, are you alleging that he engaged in criminal contact with Micah? And if so, again, my understanding is there's no time bar in South Carolina to bring charges. Is this something that you're speaking with about authorities with?
I don't think he physically had a relationship with her until after she had already been married to Jeremy.
I wanted to ask you about something else, and this goes back to that idea of why he says, and correct me if I'm wrong, why he says he had to set up the power of attorney. He was concerned about whether Micah would be taking money, because there was this allegation that Micah was a suspect in the theft of $1,200 in donations for the Solid Rock, this missionary efforts. I understand you want to clear the record up on that.
That was investigated. I have seen, police excerpts on that, and from what I've seen, to best of my knowledge, it said that that was just a domestic dispute, and there was no criminal charges to be filed.
Okay, and also, as far as the amount that was mentioned, Micah was having trouble with the websites releasing the money to her from the donations,
such as Venmo or stuff like that.
Right. They were holding on to those funds, as they do, for like the 3-day period or whatever, gaining interest. And so during that period where the money didn't show up yet, he was accusing her of stealing that money. And then after the fact, after she's passed, all the money showed back in except 1 penny.
Not to mention that the money wasn't money that was donated and she was stealing it. This money was, hey, I've put $600 out of my pocket with the intention of, hey, I will be reimbursed from this, because that's what she was told. Hey, spend your $600 to purchase, all the donuts that you're using for fundraising. It's a charity. We'll make sure we reimburse you. So it's not even stealing. It's reimbursement for what she's already put into.
Right.
And before I let you go, I have to ask you about this letter that came out that he had seemingly apologized to Micah for what he said was releasing a nude photograph of her on the internet. What was your reaction to that letter?
He's a faker.
Yeah.
He likes to band-aid everything so he can still control and manipulate people.
I told him straight up, because of his behavior before, okay, now go ahead and go cry in front of your church and apologize like you always do. Mm-hmm. And he didn't during the sermon and his bombshell drop at the last point. He didn't do his fake sniveling, crying, fake stuff. He just, until later. But he would, numerous times, he would go in front of the church and say, I'm sorry, I did this and I did that. I'm sorry. If you don't want me to be the pastor, I'll leave. And they would say, oh, no, you do such a great job. And then it would happen again and again.
Right.
Oh my God. He treats his congregation like in like an abusive relationship. I'm sorry I did this. If you don't want me here anymore, that's fine. Or if you don't want me here, that's fine. I'll just leave. No. We're all human. We make mistakes. We love you. Keep going. He has even groomed his congregation This shit is bananas.
And if they did stand up against him, he would threaten them with removing them from the church, or he would just straight out remove them in front of everybody. And then later in sermons said, "Oh well, they just left for no reason. I don't know why they left."
Michael, Sierra,
I don't trust anything that comes out of his mouth. It's all backwards.
Well, Michael, Sierra,
I do know that so many people are going to say, hey, Christians, this is why a lot of people don't go to church, because a lot of pastors may not be as bad as JP, but there are a lot of pastors who are in a leadership position who do the same things that he is doing, whether that would be money laundering, embezzlement of money, anything immoral to do with finances, indoctrinating the congregation, grooming the congregation, grooming teenagers, cheating on spouses. Like, there are so many pastors who do this, and this is a reason why, again, not as bad as JP, but this is a reason why a lot of people don't go to church, because yeah, pastors are human. However, it is also biblical that if you are in any type of leadership position, you are held to a different standard. So if you sin, that sin is a little worse than if like somebody in the congregation sinned, because they're not held to that certain standard of leadership in the body of Christ. And he's really screwing that up, because he's a terrible, no, I don't want to say he's a terrible leader, because he is proving that he is actually a phenomenal leader, but he's not leading with a pure heart, good intentions. He's leading with malice, with evil, with hatred. But he's still leading regardless, which is so disgusting.
Here's what I wanted to ask you. This is going to be an ongoing discussion. And
you can be a great leader and still be a shit person. You're just leading the people down the wrong path.
Hoping, and first of all, thank you for being so forthcoming to come on to explain this, give your perspective on what's happening. As this progresses, can we keep an open line, and can you come back on and let us know any updates that are happening?
I am so happy that the family is finally speaking out. I can't even imagine how difficult it is for them to talk, but this investigation is not going to happen the way that we want if the family and the people in the church don't speak. So now we are going to watch 3 videos of Britt, because she's coming out with them every single day with new information. And we're going to end on these 3 videos. First one, super good news of the FBI now being involved in the investigation with Micah and with JP Miller.
I don't even know what to say. My heart is like racing because of the information that I've been sitting on. I've been so busy the last couple of hours, I hadn't had a second to get on here to tell you what has come out today. It's huge for the case. The feds were called in. But not just that. The Sheriff's Office announced Monday that it had requested assistance from the United States Attorney's Office and the Federal Bureau of Investigation in South Carolina in the Micah Miller investigation. This is massive. The Sheriff's Office has been in contact with the United States Attorney's Office and the Federal Bureau of Investigation in South Carolina since the early stages of the Micah Miller investigation. Based on the information gathered during the investigation and jurisdiction reasons, the Sheriff's Office has requested the assistance of both agencies. No other information will be released at this time. Anyone with information pertaining to the Micah Miller case can contact the Columbia, South Carolina FBI office. This is absolutely huge for this case for more than just this reason pertaining to the investigation of the Micah Miller case. Because another article came out saying the FBI is investigating JP Miller, his attorney, and Dare to Care African mission.
I am going to link this article in the description box below. She's going to read through some of it, but I'll leave it in there for you to read as well.
This is the African mission that he's been talking about all over his sermons for the past couple of months. It goes on to say, sources confirm that Tom Winslow of the Winslow Law Firm and JP Miller are persons of interest by the FBI over issues surrounding monies collected for Miller's African mission Dare to Care. It's unclear how long the investigation has been ongoing, but Myrtle Beach SC News has been sent information that confirms Micah Miller knew of the investigation prior to her death. Micah Miller kept a daily journal. Here's where things really take a spin. On March 14th, Myrtle Beach police reported that nearly 1,200 in donations meant for Solid Rock Ministries' missionary efforts in Africa were stolen by Micah Miller, the suspect in now a closed local police theft investigation. Her bank account was allegedly credited with $1,199 after Micah Miller committed at a state park in Robeson County on April 27th. Her death was ruled a. Apparently, additional funds are missing from that same mission. Attorney Tom Winslow and his law firm are people/organizations of interest in the FBI probe.
Now remember what Micah's dad said. He said the website was like giving her problems or whatever the case may be, so it held onto those funds for the usually like 3 to 5 days or whatever. And then that's when JP was like, you stole money out of the account, but then it was accredited. So there weren't any criminal convictions.
Tom Winslow represented Pastor John Paul Miller and helped JP Miller get legal documentation of Micah's mental health diagnosis. Many have questioned Winslow's methods in getting this legal documentation. Posts on Solid Rock and Tom Winslow's Facebook pages, you can see here Solid Rock posted and quoted Tom Winslow in one of their posts on social media as of recent. It then carries on to say, in a letter published by Fit News, Pastor John Paul Miller purportedly tells Micah, I have about 10 to 12 people going to Africa this time, including Tom Winslow. You can see the letter here. Here you can see it says, an email purportedly written by Pastor John Paul Miller to Micah Miller ahead of her death. It says, hey Micah, I hope you're doing well. I'm ready to be done and move on and heal and find a first lady who won't treat me the way you are. Full stop. It then goes on to say, I really hope you do great things. I was willing to do anything. I even had the amazing desire to have kids since you're not on meds. And I want to apologize for the flowers and fruit. It was already paid for to last until your birthday. Feel free to give it all away. I sent that to you before I found out all the things that I have recently found out about you and what you've done, and you disgust me. So please, let's meet soon and be divorced and let this nightmare be over for me. I'm enjoying all the missions, and Pastor Jumba and all the pastors' wives are so excited for what we're doing, and we expect 120 kids our first semester. I have about 10 to 12 people going this time, including Tom Winslow. This is probably one of the biggest pieces of the case. I'm not going to talk too much about this. Of course, we've said to you before, all the creators that are covering this case as best as we can. There is so much that we're not sharing publicly right now because obviously the goal is not to be fancy on TikTok. It's to cover the case to the extent that it actually gets resolved. So this, finding out that the FBI is getting involved in the case and has already been involved with searching JP Miller and his affairs, such as his attorney and Dare to Care African mission, this is a huge deal, especially because it already notates that Micah knew about this stuff. We're getting closer and closer.
And do you remember when Micah was saying, I don't remember which part it was, but she had stated, I'm afraid that JP is going to, she said, either hurt me or kill me because I know too much. Well, we all think now that this is the part that she knew too much about the investigation. Okay, we're going to learn more about Tom Winslow.
Well, in an effort to avoid a lawsuit from a lawyer, let's just go ahead and stick with facts. The question is, who is Tom Winslow? Why is he on the docket with the FBI in correlation to JP Miller, the death of Micah Miller, and the Africa Dare to Care missions? If you missed the update from yesterday, a couple news sources actually put out that FBI is investigating JP Miller, his attorney, and the Dare to Care African mission. The attorney in question here is Tom Winslow. Let's just read the article as it exists. I went into this in more detail yesterday as well, but we're sticking just with Tom Winslow for today because that seems to be the topic of conversation. It reads, sources confirm that Tom Winslow of the Winslow Law Firm and JP Miller are persons of interest by the FBI over issues surrounding monies collected for Miller's African mission Dared Care. It then goes on to say it's unclear how long the investigation has been going on, but Myrtle Beach SC News has been sent information that confirms Micah Miller knew of the investigation prior to her death. Micah Miller kept a daily journal. This could potentially be the journals that JP went looking for at Micah's apartment complex and the ones that he was arguing for with the people who had obtained them at that time. More background from the article yesterday says on March 14th, Myrtle Beach Police reported that nearly $1,200 in donations meant for Solid Rock Ministries' missionary efforts in Africa were stolen by Micah Miller, the suspect in a now closed local police theft investigation. Her bank account was allegedly credited with $1,199 after Micah Miller committed at a state park in Robinson County on April 27th. Her death was ruled a. Apparently, additional funds are missing from that same mission. Attorney Tom Winslow and his law firm are people/organizations of interest in the FBI probe. Here's what we know about Tom Winslow's correlation with Africa missions. In part of an email that JP sent to Micah Miller, it says, "So please let's meet soon, be divorced, and let this nightmare be over for me. I'm enjoying all the Africa missions, and Pastor Jumba and all the pastors' wives are so excited for what we're doing. We expect 120 kids our first semester. I have about 10 to 12 people going this time, including Tom Winslow." We also already know that Tom Winslow is a member of Solid Rock at Market Commons, which is JP Miller's church. Now that you're caught up on how he has any involvement in this case whatsoever, let's discuss a couple things that I think are interesting that I found on Tom Winslow's law firm's Instagram page, blog pages, and his own Facebook and TikTok accounts. Public knowledge. Just yesterday is when the articles were released saying that Tom Winslow had any sort of anything to do with the Miller investigation. And I find it interesting that yesterday he posted a blog post called Social Media and Online Defamation. Weird timing. It goes on to talk about cyber defamation, social media, and online defamation. It goes into details about what this could look like, what could actually be cases, what could actually result in jail time. This was not a topic of conversation on the blog post prior. It's not like this was a recurrent series. This was posted yesterday, right around the time when the FBI articles were starting to be released in the news. It's just weird timing. It goes on to say that defamation happens when someone makes a false statement about you verbally or in writing that damages your reputation. Verbal defamation is called slander. Written defamation is called libel. It goes on to talk about harassment and cyberbullying that are crimes that can lead to jail or prison sentences, which is why it's so important to not just say whatever you want on the internet, but stick with facts and be careful how you present your.
This is why I correct some of y'all in the comments who are saying, he definitely did it, or he killed her, or any of those things. I'll put allegedly, like, in our opinion, because that can be defamation, because that's why I have to continuously say, in my opinion, it is alleged. Even if I truly think it's true, I have to use that protective language because of defamation, because of slander. So we just got to be careful with that.
Information, which is an interesting time to post an article like this. It talks about false statements. It talks about plaintiffs and defamation laws in different states. He talks about how to prove malice, whether or not that is involved in a case. It goes on to talk about damages or receiving monies in exchange for defamation cases. And then it says people can and do sue individuals for defamation in response to social media posts. However, for example, in 2017, a woman had to pay $500,000 after she made a Facebook post which implied a former rival was responsible for their child's death in a drunk driving wreck. Nothing funny about that. But I find it interesting that this is the post that goes out yesterday, the day that his name becomes public knowledge to the case. Again, I just think it's interesting. This is one of my favorite statements at the end here. Social media is a tool that can be used for good or evil. The use is up to the user. I think that that's implied. However, I also think that that's subjective. Be wise and do not jump to conclusions when all you know are rumors and gossip from other people who know nothing more than you yourself. God bless you, your business in the United States of America, Tom Winslow. I just want to share with you a brief TikTok that actually came from Tom's own TikTok page, which he does have on the internet currently. It's still up. And I just find it really interesting because he's talking about something that's a pretty progressive idea, and he's bringing a lawyer's perspective here, which I find interesting.
Artificial intelligence, AI. Who would have thought that in a legal scenario 20 years ago when I started practicing that AI would be the next lawyer? Out in Oklahoma, they just tried a case regarding a speeding ticket using AI, speaking to the defendant to kind of tell them what to say in terms of research. So it's going to become more and more prevalent as we move forward in our legal world. Why is that important, right? Because sooner or later, we're all going to have the same research and writing. Because we're going to have the same computer, the same system doing that process. So why do you need lawyers? Because of the delivery, right? Just because you know what to say, just because you know what research to give, can you actually deliver that in an effective way to a jury, to a judge, to whoever it might be that needs to hear that information, get a case resolved, or to have the case resolved in your favor? It's still about who can deliver it most effectively. And that's where that lawyer still will come in. That's where that law firm will still come in to take care of you and your needs on what they can do to deliver to you what's been delivered to them.
That's pretty cool that this lawyer knows about AI and the importance of understanding a system like that in today's day and age. As far as Tom's involvement in the case moving forward, we really have no idea what his true involvement is. We don't know if he had anything to do with any of the things that he is being questioned under. He is listed currently as a person of interest if these articles are correct, as they seem to be circulating among all news stations currently. So I guess we'll have to wait and see what his involvement is moving forward. But what we do know is that a letter was released by, it seems, JP's new lawyer, who is Law Offices of Russell B. Long. And in this letter that was released to the public, it goes into detail saying that basically anybody who's proliferating falsehoods against JP Miller will come under a cease and desist and will potentially be served a lawsuit. So I think that's interesting as well. So I guess their correlation in this suit moving forward is that Tom Winslow is not representing JP.
This is called fear mongering and trying to keep people's mouths shut. Well, not the right one here. I take great pride in not being scared of no man. Okay.
JP Miller, it looks like Russell B. Long is moving forward, or potentially throughout this entire case.
Dude, every person talking about you, that sounds like a Brittany Dawn thing. If anybody talks bad about me, I will send you a cease and desist. Like, ma'am, what? No, you cannot. If you are going to send out cease and desist to everybody who is speaking poorly about you, that is probably 90% of the nation right now, sir. That's so silly. I told y'all it's going to be a longer video. We have one more video of Britt. This is essentially recapping the interview with Micah's dad.
I'm not even sure where to start, but I'm just going to tell you, sit down. Everyone woke up and chose absolute violence because there is an endless supply, a plethora of inside information that has come out on multiple different news sources. Micah Miller's dad, Michael Francis, was on side.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes you got to wake up and choose violence. Come on.
A car today with Jesse Weber, which is Long Crimes Network. There was a Nancy Grace episode that was done with Sierra Francis. There were interviews that came out. There was inside information that came out. And it has been confirmed that there are 200 acres of land that belong to someone involved in this. I did a brief video on this guy yesterday, and something I want to tell you is that people are biting sensationalized stories, and if information is coming out seconds after a news clip was posted somewhere, you can probably bet your bottom dollar that the person is not checking any of the facts. People continue to say that this man is an AI expert, and while I did find videos on him understanding AI, which was an interesting fact all along, the person they're referring to is a LinkedIn account which belongs to a different man named Thomas Winslow, who is not Tom Winslow that actually knows JP Miller.
This shit drives me bananas. This happens all of the time. If you find something on social media and you're like, oh my God, that's crazy information, please continue to do your research, because 9 times out of 10, it is exaggerated, it is false, or whatever. Just be able to do your own research. I know that I am using a lot of videos from different creators. However, I have looked this stuff up myself, but they can say it better than I can. So that's why I'm using it. But just keep doing your research.
Unbelievable inside information coming directly from Micah's dad. This is an overhead drone flight that was done by a team that Kyler Marlowe is working with. I want to leave this with you as well. He says that the shell casings and the gun were located 130 feet away from where her body was found, and that there is no movement of water in any direction that would have taken her that way, would have taken her the opposite way. I'm soon going to share a video with you that I've had in my drafts for close to a week now that explains more in detail this theory without this piece of information that just showed up on the scene. So basically, Tom Winslow owns 200 acres of land that sits right along Lumber River. This is about a 8 to 15 minute drive, depending on which park entrance, away from Lumber River State Park where Micah's body was found. But the most important thing to me is that the land backs up to the water system. And I had a theory that I have been telling people for probably close to a week, but I've been not posted it publicly because obviously the most important thing in a case like this, if anyone's going to cover it, is not to be sensational and be the first person to get information out there. It's to make sure that you're only offering information that has a backup theory with facts, because the goal is to get answers and get the truth, not to be the coolest one on the scene. So I sat on this for a while. This is the missing piece of the puzzle that I was needing. I have had a theory that Micah was actually brought in from a different direction. My theory is that she was never driving the car, that she didn't drive it in. My theory is that, I'll show you the previous video that I filmed about a week ago now, but my theory is that the entry point into the park actually happened along the backside of the river. I believe this is why nobody saw her go in. I believe this is why there was no eyewitnesses about anybody who was with her. I believe that this is why there was a placement of the body that was in a remote location that probably they didn't even know was remote access, that only park rangers would have access to. I believe that this is why she was located so secluded. This piece of information, him owning this property, now again, him owning this property doesn't automatically make him a criminal. It just means there's access to the park in a different...
Yeah, and you cannot pay me enough to think that all of this is just a coincidence. There's no way.
Different direction than what we previously suspected, and that the access was ultimately extremely private. Here's the information that was actually background checked by someone who's working directly with Kyler. What you can see here on this map as well that was provided by them is this is the piece of property. This squiggly little line is Lumber River. It goes all the way up to Lumber River State Park where she was found. There's so much more from the interview that was done with Sidecar, the interview that was done with Sierra, Micah's sister, and all the details that are coming out just from the family itself. I'm gonna have to make a whole separate video on that, but there are a couple pieces of information. I want to give you these clear tidbits that are coming out. This was posted sometime in the last 24 hours. This is a poem, the one that JP read at Micah's memorial service, and when I read this piece of paper, I immediately realized he very clearly left out a portion of this poem that is written in the written version but is not in the actual memorial service reading that he did. And I think there's a reason why. JP alleges that this poem was written for him by Micah, and he very specifically leaves out one line. In the memorial service, he reads the poem aloud and he leaves out this portion of the letter. It's meant to be a playful note, like two kids who are just kids playing around fall in love, and they have a crush, and the crush grows and it doesn't go away, and nobody wants them to be together, and then they're in high school, and then they're in college. I don't know if this was written for him, but if it was, this is what he leaves out of it. You see mine and I see yours, then we blush and quickly pull up our drawers. Did she write this for him? Because if so, I've got a lot of questions, and my question is, how did this become made public on his profile? And he thought we were just going to skip over this little line here where they're 14 years apart.
I've got a list of questions. And one of them is, if she wrote this about him, why? Why?
So while I was editing this video, I completely forgot that I left out the body language expert that News Nation had on for an interview. And this is one of the videos that I wanted to put in part 6. So we're going to go ahead and watch this.
We're not seeing any grief here. We're not seeing what are called adapters, the things that we use to comfort ourselves, to self-soothe ourselves, like wringing of the hands, those kind of things. He's got these, what's supposed to be tears happening. That's not happening. He has no tissues there with him. His nose isn't running. He's trying to pretend it is, but it isn't. These are all the classic cues of someone who is faking an emotion. And if you'll notice, if someone's really feeling an emotion, that's what the emotions fire those expressions onto your face, in other words, from your brain, from your limbic system. And those don't last on here. We don't see grief. The little bit of grief that there's semi-sadness that we see in there is taken away by a smile. And the smile.
Now, if you do remember in some of the clips that we went over in part 5 of when JP was speaking at the funeral, he sounded super, super weepy and he was kind of wiping his cheek. But if you remember, somebody came on stage and gave him tissues and he was like, no, it's okay. And from my recollection, he never touched them. So I'm agreeing with this body language expert, and he's not even crying. And to be quite honest, I could not foresee myself speaking at one of my loved ones' funeral. You know, like maybe giving, no, I can't do it. I know some people do give some words of remembrance for the person who died, but me specifically, I know that there is no way in hell that like I have ever spoken at a funeral of a loved one, and how I think there's no way, because I would be crying the whole time, because I wouldn't be able to utter words. But he has been able to completely do this whole funeral remembrance, whatever you'd like to call it, without like breaking down or I don't know, like it's very strange to me. And I know that some of y'all in the comments of my last video were saying like that he's not crying. Like there needs to be somebody who can analyze body language, and praise God that this is happening.
Is more prevalent than his grief is, or than his sadness is. This is one of those things that shows so many things that are wrong with it. I'm actually going to use this in training, because these are all the classics right here, all of them.
Wow. You're going to use this in training. Holy Dinah.
Yeah.
There's something I read that you had mentioned about a forehead, like tells in the forehead. What's that about here in this video?
Well, quite often we get what is referred to as the grief muscle. It's sort of like an upside down horseshoe that happens right here in the glabella area of the forehead. And when you see that, I can't do it. You may be able to, I don't know. It only shows up when someone is actually feeling grief. They're remembering something very sad. They've just lost someone in their family, or maybe a pet, and you'll see, or if they're in great pain, then you'll see the grief muscle show up. It shows up right there. We're seeing, and you could say, oh, this is Botox in his forehead and all that. He may have a little bit in there, but you would still see some movement up in here if he did that. I don't think he's feeling any grief here. We're not hearing it in his voice. His voice, he's under the impression when you're sad that your voice goes way high. Quite often it drops low and you can't speak. And when it's that high, it breaks too much. His voice is way too clean for this, way too clean for him to be as sad as he's saying that he is. Also, his arms are too far away from his torso. The one hand he's gesturing with, he's got one in his pocket, but notice you can see space in there. When we're sad, when we're trying to comfort ourselves, or someone is grieving like he's supposed to be, then you'll see the arms come close to the body. We're not seeing that at all. Not at all. Just his hand in his pocket, and he is swaying back.
God, this is so interesting, because even if we don't know anything about body language, sometimes we can look at somebody and be like, man, this doesn't look right. Like, you can't necessarily point out the reason why it doesn't look right, but you're like, dude, something is not right there. And it's so refreshing to hear an expert validate the feelings that we have been feeling. Oh, it's so cool.
And forth some because he thinks that's what he's supposed to do, but he's not doing it right. He's not doing the correct things he should be doing. That is an adapter, but he's not using his hands or his shoulders. His shoulders are too high. He's not bent over. So many things in this. I could go on for 30 minutes. I'll watch.
I got a spidey sense about it, but you just put so much of it into actual language that makes sense. I want you to watch the other thing.
And also, I do have to say, I just remembered in the there's a Facebook page, and it's called Justice for Micah, and Micah's sister Sierra Francis, she created it, and somebody posted in there the other day. People are posting in there all the time. Somebody posted in there the other day because he was in communication with a brother, and the brother had mentioned to be very wary of where you get your information. And if you need information, get it from News Nation, because they are actually not siding with JP. They are putting accurate information out there. So just in case, if y'all were curious, wondering, whatever, a lot of what we're talking about does come from News Nation, but that's via Micah's brother. That's what he stated.
That we collected for you. Okay. It's John Paul announcing to his congregation the death of his wife the day after it happened, but he does it at the very end of his sermon. So take a look at that, and then I want to get your thoughts on it after. Take a look.
All right.
I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away. And yeah, it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina. And we're gonna have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And so it's all I can. Yeah, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And she wasn't. Y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally, and that she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come.
Okay, what do you make of that?
Again, we're not seeing things we should be seeing. No grief in the forehead, no grief in the face. His expression is blank. It's not sad. We're not hearing the low tone that we should be hearing. Before, we heard the thing where he's at the funeral all whiny and stuff, and his voice is really high. This is where he's trying to show emotion, and he's not really showing any emotion. Again, his arms are far away from his body. Why bring up his wife's medical, or not being able to get medicine during this? That's called a qualifier. He's qualifying what's happened to her. These are all this is so, it's horrible, but it's really good when you want to show someone the body language of what shouldn't be happening when someone's grieving.
Coming from a body language expert, he says, man, essentially he's like, this is exactly how you manipulate, because this is so good. If you don't know what you're looking for sure, like, you can be fooled from this. But like we have spoken, and what I have told y'all, like, something isn't right. We can't really, well, just like when you have a gut feeling, when you have that intuition, you're like, I know something is off. I don't know what it is, but there's something off. And to have somebody say, no, like, that's not how you grieve. And this would be a perfect example for my students of grieving incorrectly, and or covering something up to try and grieve the way that you're supposed to. Like, oh my God, this is good for News Nation for having a body expert on. This is beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna cut it off here. I am going to do more research today to see what other things have come about in the last 24 hours, because I was doing research yesterday, but it seems like every single day. And it's not even a few days in between or once in a week. It's literally every single day something new comes about. But I'm telling you, it's because the truth always surfaces. Whatever I'll say it again. Whatever you do in the dark will come to light. I will cut it off here. I do appreciate y'all so very much, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.